if I manage to practice my presence, this orienting phase, it's almost like it would get a bit stronger, because when I am present, when I'm trained in being present, I notice earlier, I pause more naturally, and I respond instead of react. Hi, and welcome to Lead Well. Hey, and welcome back to the Lead Well podcast. And again, we will talk about presence, because this is such an important topic. And I feel that if we get that right, our lives can be so much easier, because it's the foundation. It's the foundation for everything, for every decision we want to make with a clear mind, for every conversation we want to have, because we know presence is the state that brings us into the here and now, where we can observe what's going on in the moment, and where we can use our body as an anchor, because our body is always in the presence, unlike our mind and soul. And today I wanted to look a bit deeper into this idea of presence. And again, several familiar situations. We talked about missing the exit. So missing the exit, I drive by, and then probably my nervous system tells me, oh, wow, you have made a mistake, and why could you, and how could you? And then there can be another situation where we have a conversation that suddenly we feel is turning into a wrong direction, and we're getting emotional, and we're saying things we probably regret in hindsight. Or we have this continuous thought spiral going on in our head, and we have a hard time to getting out from there. And getting present really helps us in these moments, because it helps us to reorient ourselves. It helps us to change the status of our nervous system, because being present really has an impact on our autonomic nervous system. When we get present, our nervous system calms down. You remember me always saying the sympathetic stress mode, that is meant for fight, flight, or we freeze if there is no way out. And in stress, the system is focused on this thing that we think is dangerous, and our tolerance really decreases and the speed increases. We just try to get out of that situation. And in presence, our emotional intensity drops. So we don't feel as agitated. We don't feel as anxious anymore, because we can focus on what is there, what is around us. And so the reactivity decreases, the response, the cognitive response can increase, and our inner calm becomes accessible again. And there is one thing that I want to make clear. With getting present, we do not eliminate or oppress our emotions. We just change how strong we have to react to them. So we can feel the emotions, we can perceive the emotions, but then we can cognitively decide what to do with them. So it changes how strongly our emotions are driving our behavior. And hopefully they're not driving our behavior, but our cognition is. So they are still there, but they are not taking over the steering wheel anymore. And so the idea is that when we create this regulation, we create choice for us, because this regulation creates reaction. If I'm offended, if I'm attacked, I try to defend myself, or I try to run away. There is no other way for me to do. But if I'm regulated, and if I feel, okay, I might feel attacked, but maybe it's not meant as an attack, then I can start thinking again, and I can react in a much better way. Of course, when I want to make a decision, I want to have as much brain capacity as possible. And when I'm stressed out, I don't have a lot of brain capacity left other than looking at the danger and trying to get out of there. So if I make a decision in a stress situation, my decision will look completely different from the decision I make when my nervous system is in a parasympathetic mode. So this is a reason, for example, why so many conversations fail when I'm stressed out, because I can no longer think. I have so many clients who tell me, Christine, once I'm out of the conversation, I have the most beautiful answers ready, but not when I am in front of my manager, for example. And so many times when we enter a conversation, we are already stressed out before that because we imagine all the different outcomes and all the different things that the other person might say to us and all the things that might happen to us. So already the reflection on the topic is really happening in a stressed out mode. And so this is where it's so important to regulate ourselves first and then start to think about things. Because when we are present and when we are in this state of presence, it doesn't guarantee that we have perfect outcomes, but it really increases the chances that the responses can be much better. Now, there is one thing I really only learned recently, and I want to share with you right away because I find it so interesting, and that is the concept of orienting. And this concept of orienting says that there is this small moment between the moment we perceive something and we react to it. So let me give you the example of a conversation. There is this moment where the other person says something and I hear it again back in my ears, and then I decide, do I take it as an attack? Am I offended? Or is this something I can respond to in a much kinder way because I feel this was not meant as an offense? Or I see something out of the corner of my eyes and I kind of have this split second where my brain thinks, is this a threat or is this just a person walking by? So this moment, this tiny little moment that happens before my system reacts with the sympathetic nervous system, going into either a flight mode or a fight mode or a freeze mode. This is this split moment before my system reacts, before my sympathetic nervous system kicks in. And I feel this is so important to make that distinction because it's so much easier to use presence in this orienting phase rather than in the phase when the sympathetic nervous system has already kicked in. Because think about it, when you do it before, it's like a prevention and your system doesn't have to react with stress. If you're already stressed out, yes, it also works. I can also reactivate my present state and I can reactivate my parasympathetic nervous system, but I already had all those neurotransmitters and the stress hormones in my body. So this is wonderful because if I manage to practice my presence, this orienting phase, it's almost like it would get a bit stronger because when I am present, when I'm trained in being present, I notice earlier, I pause more naturally, and I respond instead of react. And if I'm not trained in getting present and staying present, emotions can escalate much faster, my decisions can feel much harder, and the regret comes later, really. So it's not about control, it's about access, it's about how to not get into my stress response. And that is something that we will look into in the 4-week course of presence that will start on the 28th of February. And maybe you will join me, because this is a beta group, and you can tell me what you would be interested in learning, in really working on in this course as well. So for example, one of my clients already said, I would love to learn how to switch off my thinking every time I need it. And I said, I cannot guarantee you can do that after 4 weeks, but the chances are you have all the tools and techniques to practice to be able to do so. And why can I say that? Because I have those tools and techniques that I am using every day, and I notice that it's so much easier to go through life when you do. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Next time we will talk about presence a bit more, once more. And I hope you remember this, what is the best time to be able to get present, and this orienting phase before what happens, and or also when things already happened. Regardless, it's always great to be able to do so. And of course, it's not only important for ourselves, but also for the 4-legged friends that we're living with. So thank you for today. I look forward to next week. I hope you do as well. Bye for now. This was Lead Well. Now, what is the one thing that you're taking away from this episode? Please share in the comments below, and do share the podcast with your friends and family, but only if you like it.